Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You're watching the TMI show with me, Ted Rall. That over there is Robbie West filling in for I don't know, vacationing wouldn't really be accurate, but she's off today, Manila Chan. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. As always, thank you so much for joining us here on the Too Much Information, Ted Manila Information Show. Please hit like, please consider donating, subscribe. Please subscribe. It really means a lot to us. And please share on your socials. We haven't seen a lot of that. I mean, don't keep it all to yourself. This isn't like, like when there's that restaurant you really like and you go and you're like, oh, it's so good. I don't want to tell all my friends because it'll get crowded. And then 6 months later, it's out of business. That's your fault. Okay, don't let that happen here. But it probably won't, but because we're doing pretty good. But, anyway.
Well, speaking of that, we are 106 subscribers away on YouTube from getting monetized. So for those of you who are on YouTube, now we are getting literally about 10,000 views a day on average.
12,000 yesterday. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if less than 1% of you bastards will click the subscribe button, it would help. So do that. It costs you nothing.
But actually, you should all do it. Don't be
100%.
Be like Tulsi Gabbard. Fight for your right to partay.
Or stop World War III.
Yeah, please stop World War III. That would be really, really good. Would appreciate that a great deal. All right, Robbie, shall we just get to it? I should just talk about what we're talking. Let's talk about what we're talking about. Okay, so first we're gonna get into the latest out of the Israel's war against Iran. Right now, the Trump administration is considering joining Israel's war against Iran. There's some reports that they kind of already have. We'll get into that. And there's a split.
Well, Ted Cruz admitted that yesterday.
We'll get into that. And then there's a split. There's a split within the GOP that we talked about a little bit yesterday with Manila. Robbie and I are going to get into that about in Tulsi Gabbard's kind of like in the thick of it, and she's on the ropes. They may kick her out of the administration. Meanwhile, over in Israeli-occupied Gaza, Israel keeps luring hungry people in with promises of food and then shoots them. Happened again, 70 more Palestinians died. And then a new study shows that cannabis use may double your risk of heart disease and death from heart disease, as well as higher risk of stroke. That's kind of surprising and counterintuitive. We'll get into that. And finally, waters are full of microplastics. We've talked about it here on the TMI show. But new study shows that if you live near water that has a lot of microplastics, which is a lot of rivers and lakes and so on, your risk of diabetes and heart disease also goes up. So nothing but pleasantry here on the show. All right. Assume that we just did some Jaws, and let's get straight into...
Hold on, I got you.
Headline news. Okay, so first and foremost, let's go straight into it. I got to pull up Oh, did I lose my...
Did you lose it?
No, I have it here. Okay, here we go. Donald Trump is considering whether or not the U.S. should join Israel's strikes against Iran as the war continues for its sixth day and angry rhetoric ramps up on all sides. U.S. strikes could involve using superior weaponry to hit an underground nuclear site at Fordo, that according to 5 sources who spoke to the BBC. By the way, Robbie, I know exactly the weapon that they're talking about because I experienced one of these in Afghanistan. So Fordo is buried deep underground, and the theory here is that conventional bombing can't possibly get to the crux of the matter, as it were. So in order to destroy it completely, the BLU-82, which is a tens of thousands of pounds bomb, which basically is shipped on a pallet, and then it's dropped from a special plane. It's a 2-part bomb. A first part goes off, and then once it creates a giant crater, the second part blows up what's inside. I experienced one of these things indirectly when I was in Afghanistan in the fall of 2001. So I was in near Khalilabad in northeastern Afghanistan, and in the middle of the night, I heard rumbling and dogs barking in the street. And then suddenly there was a gust of wind. And I assumed because it's Afghanistan and it's a very seismically active area that it was some sort of earthquake. Anyway, windows broke. There was a blast of heat. That's kind of not an earthquake thing, but didn't know what happened. The next day I go to talk to a reporter from a newspaper at the Washington Post. And she said, they just dropped a bunker buster down the road. And I said, oh, really? Like how far? And she goes, you want to go see it? I go, yeah, let's go. It was 26 miles away.
Gotcha.
So we got into
Massive.
We went into a taxi, and we got all the way we got there. It had been dropped on a bridge. And, when you hear bridge, you think of like big bridge, like the Golden Gate Bridge. This was an Afghanistan bridge. So it was basically the size of like, my living room. And the blast radius was about a half a mile. Every living thing in that half a mile was gone. About 550 villagers. Ironically, all Northern Alliance, U.S. allies, every last one of them. Every dog, every cat, every goat, every sheep, everything was just gone. And it was just like, wow, this is. And so the thing is, what doesn't get killed by the blast dies of asphyxiation, because it sucks all the oxygen out for several minutes, actually. So it's a big boy, and that's the one they want to drop in Iran. I think it would be obviously just absolutely devastating. It's unlikely that the site would survive that. Anyway, Trump met with the national security advisors yesterday to figure out whether or not the U.S. is going to go in deeper with Israel. Israel and Iran have been firing missiles at each other since Friday. According to analysts, Trump is willing to join up with Israel, even though he kind of ran against exactly this sort of thing, and he didn't really want Bibi Netanyahu to do this in the first place. But he also said that he was frustrated that their nuclear negotiations in Oman didn't seem to have reached a deal quickly enough. I love this 60-day. He said that there was a 60-day deadline and that Israel attacked on day 61. I don't know about you, Robbie. I don't remember any 60-day deadline being announced. If there was a 60-day deadline, I guess that was maybe just in Trump's head, or maybe he only told the Iranians or whatever. The point is that it wasn't widely publicized. Anyway, on social media, he also threatened to assassinate Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, said he knew where he was. He's an easy target, but is safe there, Trump wrote. We are not going to take him out, open parentheses, kill, exclamation mark, close parentheses, at least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. And then there's this use of the word our and we, which a lot of analysts have taken note of, which sort of this is a change for the president. So obviously he's now sort of saying, oh, we are with Israel. Another post from Trump simply read, unconditional surrender, all caps. On Wednesday, Khamenei responded and said, Iran will never surrender. Any form of U.S. military intervention will undoubtedly be met with irreparable harm, he said. Wise people who know Iran, its people, and its history never speak to this nation in the language of threats, because Iranians are not those who surrender, he added. Although, historically, Iran has surrendered a few times. But, I take his point. This is fundamentally, Robbie, a war for Donald Trump's soul, isn't it?
At this point, Ted, I honestly don't know if the man even has a soul. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, with what you just now described, I mean, to me, it's horrifying, because what we always hear is that Iran is governed by a death cult. To my knowledge, Iran has never dropped a bomb that has a effect radius of 20 to 30 miles that kills everything. And Iran hasn't invaded and destroyed, 6 different countries in 20 years?
No.
I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And what this is, this is a fundamental betrayal of Trump's MAGA base. That is what it is. I mean, it's not so much about Trump's soul. It's about the soul of what it is to be an American. I mean, this is the issue. Are we Imperial Rome, or aren't we at this point? How much power does the Praetorian Guard have? What can the president actually do?
We are Imperial Rome. We've been Imperial Rome
for a while.
I mean, let me play. I'm against this war. I think the U.S. should leave Iran alone. But let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
So the case against Iran is as follows. Iran has supported radical Islamist groups throughout the Middle East, some of whom are officially State Department designated terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, Hamas, and it supported the regime of Bashar al-Assad, who was a dictator there in Syria before he was overthrown. The axis of resistance is really just an anti-Israeli, which also means anti-Semitic, organization. Iran has repeatedly called for death to Israel and for Israel to be wiped off the face of the earth. So the brief against Iran is that it's a radically destabilizing influence throughout the Middle East, and that it represents specifically an existential threat to Israel, that if they ever did achieve a nuclear weapon, they would consider using it against Iran in order to make good on all of their rhetorical threats over the years. I think that summarizes it pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's pretty right. And but now let me just dismantle this whole argument. First, about Iran supporting Islamic terrorists. Hello, Syria. Who's running your country today? Who armed you? Who supported you? That's right. The United States and Israel did. Okay, that's a problem. So Iran supports dictators. Hello, Qatar. Hello, Saudi Arabia. Hi, how you doing? I mean, this does not. This doesn't mesh up at all. And then thirdly, correct me if I'm wrong, but people like Ben Shapiro tell me that Israel is a sovereign, independent state that is a real country. Okay, let's take him at his word. If Israel is a sovereign and independent country with a functioning economy, then surely they have this thing called a military, and they can defend themselves without having to rely on someone 5,000 miles away to underwrite their economy, to support their military, to pay for their education, to pay for their health care, to pay for their abortions, while they are literally committing a genocide. So if Israel wants to do these things, as a sovereign state, it can do it. It should pay for it itself.
The thing is also, Robbie, even if we took all those things at face value, which I don't, there's a doctrine of imminence in international law. This is what we're talking about here. What Israel is engaged in is preemptive war, right? It's the same exact justification that was given to invade Iraq, right?
It's what Russia did in Ukraine. I mean, it's preemptive self-defense is what the Russians said.
It's exactly
the exact same thing.
It's the same thing. So that's the subject of my column this week, by the way.
So if it's wrong for Russia to do this, then why is it right for Israel to do it?
Right. No, it's true. Right. Like in Israel's case, in Russia's case, their argument for invading Ukraine was if Ukraine joins NATO, that would represent something bad could happen as a result. And then we'd have all of NATO lined up against Russia. And that's an existential threat to the Russian Federation. Rather than let that happen, we're going to go in. I would say that the Russians they also have another argument that's not really about imminence. It's not even about preemption, because they also said that they were defending their ethnic brethren in the Donbass, right? So it's like who had been getting shelled and killed by the tens of thousands in the 8 years preceding Russia's invasion. But still, the part about NATO is about preemption, and you basically a classic example of where preemption is allowed under international law is Israel's 1967 war. When satellite pictures revealed that the Egyptians had moved their army up to the border, and credible intelligence indicated that Egypt intended to attack Israel within days. At that point, the Israelis attacked first across the border and started the war. That is allowed under international law, but the thing is, preemption, the threat that you're needing to that you're trying to neutralize has to be deemed imminent, highly imminent. Like it's within hours or days, the fuckers are coming for you, and you decided to jack them up before they have the chance. That's the doctrine. Now, Russia really couldn't say that. I mean, Ukraine wasn't going to join NATO anytime soon. They might have probably never would have been able to join NATO. They wanted to. The U.S. wanted them to, but that NATO requires that you have an undisputed border in order to join. So that, Ukraine didn't have that. Of course, NATO might have just made an exception for them. Who knows? But in this case, there's definitely no imminence standard whatsoever. There was no evidence whatsoever that Iran had achieved nuclear weapons. There's no, and quite to the contrary, there was a lot of evidence that they hadn't, and there's no evidence that if they achieved one, they would use it to fire to go after Israel. More likely, they'd be just using it as insurance. So there was no imminence, right? So I think that's worth noting. Let's talk a little. Let's go to our next topic because it's totally related, and I think it's super important. As Trump mulled whether or not to go after Iran alongside Israel, one member of his cabinet was attempting to steer him away from the neocons at 5:30 in the morning this morning. DNI, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, without a doubt, I would say one of the better members of his administration. I was very excited when he appointed her, tweeted a 3-minute video warning that the political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers, and said that the world is on the brink of nuclear annihilation. Now, I don't know about you, Robbie, but when someone who has access to the most high-level classified intelligence in the world tells me that the world is on the brink of nuclear annihilation, I get a little nervous.
Yeah, same here. And one of the things that really just sticks in my craw about this, Tulsi Gabbard, she wrote a book, I guess it's about a year ago now, and a lot of Republicans were very excited that Tulsi Gabbard teamed up with Trump, campaigned for Trump, joined the administration. And now that she's out here saying that Iran did not even have a nuclear weapons program since 2003. I mean, she put this note out there before Congress. And now a lot of these Republicans are apoplectic because they're just like, oh, I like Tulsi Gabbard, but oh my God, she's saying Iran didn't have nukes. Benjamin Netanyahu said that they were days away, maybe 30 minutes away from having a nuclear bomb. So now it's like an identity crisis. Who do you believe? The American intelligence apparatus and Tulsi Gabbard, who, if you're a Republican, odds are you supported, or Bibi. So it's kind of the whole dual citizenship debate that we have sometimes. You got to pick a side. Well, Mr. Republican, you get to pick a side. Are you going to go with Trump's intelligence pick? Is she telling the truth, or is Bibi? Because someone's lying to you, and you have to decide who.
We all know the traditional cartoon of, the dude who has the little devil on one shoulder and the little angel on the other. And, I think of a little Tulsi with her little streak of white hair and like a little Bibi on the other. And, the thing that if I were Tulsi, what I would try to remind Trump is, look, this guy is trying to bum rush you. It's like when you go to the used cars or any car dealership and they say, oh, this car is very rare. Like someone could come in and buy this car tomorrow. You've got to do it now. Otherwise, you're going to lose this car. You'll be on the bus the rest of your life. You're right. It's like, I don't like pressure tactics. And, Bibi Netanyahu, he launched this war on his schedule, which is intended to play domestically to distract the Israelis from the fact that he hasn't brought home the hostages. He has not beaten Hamas after so long, after almost 2 years. And he has no plan for a post-war Gaza. So he's in trouble there, and he's trying to distract from what's going on in Gaza and to wipe Gaza off the headlines so that the world also stops thinking of him as the massive war criminal that he is, and Israel doesn't continue to become even more of a pariah state. So this is all about him. But if I were talking to the president, I would say, Donald, you've got to be thinking about you. That's you're your favorite own topic, your favorite person. You. It's like, and how is this good for you? And it's like, I don't think it's good for you. You didn't run for this. Your base doesn't like it. By being anti-war, he split the Democratic Party. And it was a big part of the reason that Kamala Harris lost is because of her support for Israel. This is not like I don't know. It doesn't seem like a wise political play, even if you just don't care, even if you don't care about the human cost involved.
Yeah, I've been thinking, and I'm going to go into some conspiracy theorist area here, because I was thinking about. I woke up. You know me. I don't sleep very much. Well, I woke up like 3 o'clock this morning, and I was just, ever since this all started with Iran, do you notice what's fallen off the headlines? Mass deportations.
That's true.
And so hear me out. a lot of the same people who are all in for Israel want open borders. They want migration. They want the cheap labor. They want what's the politically correct term? Immigration reform. It's called amnesty. It's called what it is. All that stuff is all. It's off the headlines. It's all Israel, Israel, Israel. It's all Iran, Iran, Iran. Trump is now backpedaled.
Inflation's off the headlines.
Yeah, everything. And so I think that what this is, I think that this is the uniparty in Israel and in the United States working together to solve two big PR and potential economic problems.
Well, that's certainly the effect of it, and I agree with you, and I think that's definitely right.
I mean, is it by design? I think it is. It could just be a coincidence, but I mean, Ted, I don't think there's a such thing as coincidences in politics.
Well, the thing is, though, but Bibi was the driver here in terms of the timing. Bibi wanted to do it then. Trump wasn't ready. Trump still was angling for the Nobel Peace Prize. He was hoping that the talks in Oman worked out, that he'd be able to normalize relations. I mean, this really was like a love triangle. And Bibi's like, no, I know you're like getting with the Ayatollah and you think he's cute and you're not going to want to go out with me anymore. So I'm going to say bad things about the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah says, he says you're fat. He says you're ugly. And I'll mess it all up. You'll see. And that's what this is.
I don't think Trump has control over his administration, Ted. Honestly, I don't think he has control. He made the same mistake that he did before. He brings in these people. I mean, he has maybe 20 MAGA people. Some of those are probably kind of milquetoast. Like, look at you, Dan Bongino, you turncoat bastard, who just say all the right things, but when it actually comes time to stand up and be counted, just flake. I don't think he really controls his administration. No, there are reports. I do something for y'all that no one should ever have to. I actually listened to Mark Levin. And I despise that man. And he was talking about how he was on the phone with Donald Trump. Him and Handy both were talking to Trump on the phone before this whole thing, this stuff with Iran started. So my question is, if Trump is talking to them, is he talking to Tulsi Gabbard?
Well,
I don't think he is.
Apparently not. So let's get into a little more detail here. Trump said that he watched the video and got really pissed off, complaining to his associates that she had gone, she was speaking out of school, according to 3 witnesses. Her post followed, after the pro-Israel people came to Trump, hung out with him, and asked him to support Israel's war against Iran. And so in the eyes of Trump and some people close to him, Gabbard was warning him not to go with it. And Trump even said, listen, leave me alone on this. I don't think he likes Trump. I don't think he dislikes Tulsi as a person, but certainly the video made him not super hot on her. And he doesn't like it when people are off message, said one of the people who spoke to the press, a senior administration official. That official added, Trump also doesn't appreciate it when people appear to be correcting him. And many people took that video as trying to correct the administration's position.
Well, because it was. The person who's off message here, Ted, it's not Tulsi, it's Trump. Trump ran on an America first, deport the illegals, bring back manufacturing. That's what won him the election. Trump is the one that's off message here. It's not Tulsi.
So there's a report that there was a key meeting a few days ago to which Tulsi was not invited, that she ought to have been invited under normal circumstances, and that she's being iced out. I would say she currently has a big ass target on her back, every bit as much as Supreme Leader Khamenei. What say you?
I think that, and I wish I was wrong with this, but I don't think I am. I think what's going to happen is that she's going to resign. I don't think she's going to get fired. I think what she's going to do is,
do you think she'll resign on principle?
Oh, 100%. Well, because her whole thing, and she's been slandered with this before. Like, the mainstream media, they called her a Putin puppet and a Assad apologist because she was opposing regime change in Syria. She's in the military. She's seen war. She's seen the.
Yeah, she currently serves. On the day of that meeting, she was attending to her National Guard duties.
Yeah, she's a colonel.
She wasn't shooting any protesters in Los Angeles.
Mitt Romney accused her of treason, which is a death penalty offense for a member of the American military.
By the way, Nick, I don't understand, between you and me, when people get accused of shit like this, someone like Tulsi Gabbard, okay, who I have disagreements with, whatever, but
Sure.
she serves America honorably. She has served America honorably for years. Why didn't she sue Mitt Romney? Why not? I would have. It's libel. I mean, you're literally accusing me of, like you said, a death penalty offense that's specifically laid out in the Constitution. I mean, it's literally the worst thing that a member of a country can do is treason. Like, why not sue?
I think what it is that she was trying to play nice, realizing that if she made that kind of a dust up, because she wanted, to get into the Trump administration in some way, shape, or form. Going after Mitt Romney, the Mormon from Utah, would probably be a bad look with that. They would just show she has a thin skin, and people are going to accuse her of being a traitor. So then they said, right, now you're a premenopausal, traitorous, hormonal thin-skinned woman. It just wouldn't look good. I think that's why she didn't. I could be wrong, but to me, that's the only thing that makes any sense. But I mean, let's just walk this thing through. If you oppose wrecking Syria, which is a much smaller, much less complex country than Iran is, and then you want to go after a country that has over 90 million people with 12 different ethnic groups, you want to overthrow the government. Well, okay. Well, the next question is what then? Like what you put yesterday.
Right.
You reinstall the Shah because there was so much freedom then.
Right.
Really?
I mean, that's literally what Lindsey Graham, America's most heterosexual senator, had to say. He said, it's a time. I was watching him on Fox yesterday. Oh, it's time for, the Iranian people need to be free the way they were before the 1979 Islamic Revolution. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure even Lindsey Graham, when he's not being a cock goblin, he knows what the regime was in Iran before 1979. The Shah of Iran, the brutal secret police, Savak, and my mother had a friend at Wright State University who was from Iran, and he was a foreign student under the Shah. This was in the early 1970s. When he went back home, the Savak had figured to visit his parents. Savak had heard that he had attended an anti-Shah protest in Dayton. I guess it must have been a very small affair, but there were a lot of protests back then for Vietnam and a lot of other things. Long story short, they tortured him and cut off both of his legs and left him bleeding to death on his parents' front door before he died. That's what they did to this beautiful young man. That's Savak for you. That's how free Iran was before this regime. Make no mistake, the current government is not popular in Iran, and it is very repressive in many ways. And I can get into the details of that because I've visited twice. I've spent some time there. But it's definitely, it was not better under the Shah. I want to be very clear there.
Well, I mean, this is the Ukrainian style of democracy. I mean, instead of having elections, because elections are messy, I mean, you just install yourself a president. You can call him a king or a Shah. And the people who actually vote are the people who install you from another country. So, okay, yeah, you're going to be a good fit as long as you play along the corporate line. You can keep in power, maybe get yourself a little harem, have some fun. Who cares what your people think? They don't have a say. Look at you, Romania, with how you just have elections because the guy that the EU didn't like won. So you just do it again.
Or look at France. Like, hey, this one lady's doing pretty well in the polls. We don't like her. We're not going to let her run anymore.
No, let's put her in jail. I mean, that's the democracy that we're standing for. So the people who are telling me that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East,
it's not a democracy.
Based on what? What's your term?
It's not a democracy. If Israel were first of all, you can't. Here, let me define it for people who are slow. Okay, the reason it's not a democracy is because half of the population that is under Israel's control is in the occupied territories. Those people have been rendered stateless. When you render millions of people stateless and they're not able to vote, you control them, but they can't vote for your government officials. You're not a democracy.
Well, that's their fault. They should just leave.
Annexed both of those, I'm not saying they should. If they annexed Gaza and they formed a free Republic of Palestine, that included the West Bank,
Okay.
then it could create a democracy, but it's not a democracy.
No, well, the thing is, Ted, I mean, that's their fault. I mean, listen, if they would just self-deport, they could go to Jordan. I mean, they could go to any number of countries. They'll just welcome them in. And then they could then participate in the vibrant democracy of, say, Saudi Arabia, because that's so free.
Trump is being pressured, right? I mean, he's got to figure out, what he wants. I mean, I got to tell you, Robbie, here's my take. I think that Trump was like all not about it in terms of attacking Iran. And then he saw that the Israelis had considerable military success in the early days. And he was like, oh, this is going pretty well. They're winning. And Donald Trump always wants to be on the winning team. He had a major case of FOMO. He was like, oh my God, like I'm missing out on being declared the winner here. I didn't know that Bibi was going to do so well. Oh, okay. I want in on that. That's my take.
Well, the only reason Bibi's doing so well is because, like Ted Cruz said, they are being protected and supported by the American military. I mean, let's be honest here. This is not Israel standing up and punching Iran in the nose because they couldn't do it by themselves. They know they can't. So they go through, they hit Iran, they pull off this decapitation strike. And then immediately when Iran retaliates, they have to look to the Americans to protect them from the counterattack. And even then, the hits are still coming in. So no, I think that what this is, I think that Trump had no say in this. I think the biggest problem that the Trump organization has this time, just like they did the first time, is that there's no organization. He's not in charge of his national. He's not in charge of his government, and he will do as he is told.
All right. Well, let's talk about the lovely government that we are propping up there in Israel. Israeli troops have killed another 70 Palestinians and wounded hundreds more as they sought food aid in Gaza. The Israelis fired at these starving Gazans with tank shells, machine guns, and drones. Those casualties are among the 89 Palestinians killed throughout the enclave since the beginning of the day local time. Israeli soldiers fired at desperate crowds of hungry people yesterday morning as they gathered along the main eastern road in the southern city of Khan Yunis. It was the latest in a sustained wave of carnage ever since the Israel/US-backed so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which isn't really a foundation or really humanitarian, launched operations to distribute food 3 weeks ago. The Gaza civil defense spokesman Mahmoud Basal added that more than 200 people were injured, but the number of casualties has varied. Israeli drones fired at the citizens. Some minutes later, Israeli tanks fired several shells at the citizens, which led to a large number of martyrs and wounded, the spokesman said, noting that the crowd had assembled in the hope of receiving flour. Like, flour like freedom ain't free, Robbie. Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud, reporting from Gaza City, said that Israeli tanks, heavy machine guns, and drone strikes were raining down on crowds. The death toll of more than 70 made Tuesday the deadliest day around the GHF so far. Yeah, that's right. This is a food foundation, a humanitarian foundation where if you show up, you could very well be killed. Previously, the record was Monday when another 38 people got killed. This one at a food distribution center in Rafah. Reports indicate that more than 300 people have been killed and 2,000 wounded, all while showing up lured to get food from the GHF since they kicked out actual NGOs from the Strip on May 26th. Dozens of civilians, including kids, were killed, and no one could help or save lives. Survivor Saeed Abu Liba, 38, told Al Jazeera. Yusuf Nofal called the event a massacre, said that he saw a lot of people lying motionless and bleeding on the ground. Meanwhile, the soldiers kept firing on people as they ran away. Al Jazeera's correspondent Tariq Abu Azim, reporting from Deir el-Bala in central Gaza, quoted doctors at Nasir Hospital as saying that many victims were unidentifiable because they had been shredded to pieces in the Israeli attack. Lovely people.
Why are the Iranians doing this? These poor starving Gazans. I mean, that doesn't make any. Why would the Iranians be killing these starving Palestinians? Oh, wait, hold on. So hold on. So then, what you're telling me is that the good guys are the ones who are butchering people who are trying to get flour while bombing another country for a nuclear program that has not been active per Tulsi Gabbard since the early 2000s. But the good guys are the ones that are doing this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too. Like, if you're Donald Trump, you've got to be thinking about that. You know, if nothing else, Trump reads polls, and he knows Israel's really unpopular, and their star is fading fast. You know, they will. I had predicted when the war began, probably prematurely, that Israel would end up as a global pariah. Turned out, and it is, but it took a while. But that did happen. That is happening. It'll never come back from this ever.
But it doesn't have to. I mean, as long as they control the American government, global opinion does not matter. I mean, that's the thing. That's the worst part about all of this. I mean, the fact that a country that we are now, in addition to supporting by giving them material and money and aid, now we are actively we are co-belligerents in this thing. Now it's just a matter of are we going to start bombing ourselves? We are propping up a Nazi regime. Yes, I just said it. Let's call it what it is.
I agree with you.
And it's disgusting.
Psychologically, I mean, obviously we know it's not an original thought. Won't stop me from saying it anyway. You know, I mean, they learned from their oppressors, right? It's like, this is what was done to us. When you're oppressed, when you're abused, you have a choice. You can either replicate the pattern or you can break the pattern. The Israelis have chosen to replicate and improve upon it. They are indulged in Nazi-style tactics. I got to tell you, even the Nazis did not lure people for food distribution and kill them in situ. That didn't happen. They didn't do that. There were limits.
I mean, to me, y'all know me. I'm pro-life. I don't want to hear anything from another Republican tell me about how pro-life they are if they are cheerleading what's going on in Gaza, because all you're doing is showing that you are a hypocrite of the highest order.
All right,
what's the difference?
I think that's a perfect place to leave that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about everyone's favorite topic, which is, of course, microplastics. So living near heavily microplastic polluted waters along any coastline in the U.S. or presumably anywhere else significantly increases your risk of developing type 2 diabetes, stroke, and coronary artery disease. That's where plaque blocks the blood vessels feeding the heart. This is one of the first large-scale studies to suggest that living near waters heavily polluted with microplastics might be linked to chronic health conditions. That, according to Dr. Sarju Ganatra, Medical Director of Sustainability and Vice Chair of Research in the Department of Medicine at Leahy Hospital and Medical Center in Burlington, Massachusetts. I hope he doesn't have to write that all out every time he signs his name. While this study measured pollution in ocean water, pollution isn't limited to the sea. Microplastics are everywhere, in drinking water, in the food we eat, especially seafood, and even in the air we breathe, he said. Microplastics are polymer fragments that can range from less than 0.2 inches down to 1/25,000th of an inch. Anything smaller is a nanoplastic that must be measured in billionths of a meter. Such minuscule particles can invade individual cells and tissues in major organs, potentially interrupting cellular processes and depositing endocrine disrupting chemicals like bisphenols, phthalates, I can never pronounce that, flame retardants, perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, and heavy metals. And I don't mean the good kind that you listen to. A flurry of recent studies have discovered microplastics and nanoplastics in human brain tissue, the testes, and most importantly to me and Robbie, the penis, human blood, lung, and liver tissues, urine and feces, mother's milk, and the placenta. In the first analysis to illustrate harm to human health, a March study found people with microplastics or nanoplastics in their carotid artery tissues are twice as likely to have a heart attack, stroke, or die from any cause over the next 3 years than people who had none. 3 years, that's a short time. Coastal waters are considered heavily polluted if every quote-unquote bathtub of ocean water contains 10 or more plastic particles. That according to the study. Measurements of microplastic concentrations were taken by the National Centers for Environmental Information between 2015 and 20 for the ocean waters within 20 nautical miles of 152 coastal counties along the Pacific, Atlantic, and the Gulf of America, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico. Researchers then compared disease prevalence in those counties with whether residents lived near low or very high concentrations. That data was then adjusted for other contributing risk factors like age, sex, race, ethnicity, access to doctors, and socioeconomic status. Compared with people who live near waters with low levels of pollution, that's maybe one tiny plastic speck in 200 bathtubs of ocean water, people who lived near highly polluted waters had an 18% higher prevalence of type 2 diabetes, 9% higher risk of stroke, 7% higher risk of coronary artery disease. That according to this big meta study. This is a topic I wanted to talk about, Robbie, just because I think it needs more attention. They don't focus on it. I mean, even when I think about pollution, I think of air pollution. I think of climate change. I'm not thinking about because we don't see it, right? But all that plastic crap is everywhere.
It's one of the things that, here, I mean, you're going to see it here in like a month and a half or so when you come here to Montana. But I live just north of Flathead Lake, which is the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi River, and it's huge. It's a beautiful place. At the end of tourist season, people just go through, and we just pick up huge amounts of plastic and just garbage that these tourists just leave. Just all over around the lake and in the lake and up around Glacier Park. It's really, really bad. And the ones you guys nab, that's not the problem, because you nab those and they go to a landfill or they're recycled or whatever. The problems are the ones that don't get nabbed and disintegrate, and that's the problem. No, 100%. And I was reading this before the show starts. One of the things that you know more about environmental stuff than I do. With this rare earth mineral deal that Trump has signed with Ukraine, I mean, Ukraine is one of the largest breadbaskets in the world. Mm-hmm. So what happens? They start digging up these rare earth minerals and they start using that water. Where does it go, and how does it impact the farmland?
That's true. Yeah, no, it gets into the water table. Also, if that water is used to feed grain and other things, then it gets in there. I mean, the plastics are everywhere. And I mean, honestly, I think we're at a point where we really have to, I wouldn't say consider, I think we really have to move to ban most plastics. I think we need a global agreement to do that. And
I think water bottles would be a great place to start. Just bring back glass.
Great place to start. I mean, first of all, Robbie, most places, unless you're like in, West Virginia, where, sometimes people open the faucet and flames shoot out, or like Flint, Michigan, most people should just be drinking the water out of their tap, right? I mean, the point is, the idea of bottled water in general is repugnant to me. It's water. It's free. It's one of the few things that a capitalist society provides to its citizens for free. Drink the water out of your tap. Obviously, if people who live in places where it's not safe, we can handle that differently. Even there, I mean, it's like we can bring them bubblers. That's better, Oh,
I like this. Let me see here. Peter over on Rumble said, "Remember, Robbie, in deer season you can shoot the deer. So in tourist season, please don't give people here ideas, because they 100% would." And Tiger Lily, you are commenting on the video, but you're not in the chat. So I'm seeing the notifications, but I can't see what you're saying. So click on the live chat tab on Rumble, so that way we can see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that.
Okay. All right. Well, people always have a complaint. All right. So, yeah, one comment over on YouTube. I remember deposits on bottles. That would be a good start. I think they still have deposits on bottles, don't they, in most states?
I have no idea.
That's why, here in New York we do. And that's why we see homeless people collecting them out of the trash and stuff. That's a start. There's also like you could eliminate small bottles, right? You could just, there's ways to go after this. But basically, this is a product it does a lot more harm than good. And as a rule, those products should be eliminated.
I completely agree. I mean, if you're using things that are petroleum based, which plastics are, and then it gets everywhere, and then you're getting it into your body. Now, these plastics, they're getting into the bodies of unborn babies.
Yeah,
I mean, it is everywhere.
It
And
is.
and if you want to clean up the environment, I live in Montana. I live in a beautiful place.
Right. With
And I want to keep it that
very
way.
sparsely populated too.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I want to keep it that way. And so if you're here visiting, do us all a favor, pick up your crap and take it with you.
that's right. Like, give a hoot. Otherwise,
Don't pollute.
otherwise Robbie will shoot you.
Do you remember back in the 80s? It was Chief Dan George. He was in that commercial there in New York City. He was dressed up in his Indian garb, and it was the crying Indian commercial. Like someone threw a styrofoam cup. That's what that reminded me of. It's just like people we just don't care about nothing anymore.
Although I got to say that just as you well know, historically, it's kind of a lie to say that Native Americans lived in total perfect harmony with the land.
They wiped out the Great Plains. It used to be a forest.
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah. There's lots of studies that show that they contributed mightily to the early global warming, pre-industrialization, pre-Columbian.
So are you saying that the noble savage is a myth? You're racist.
My cat is a noble savage. So.
You're such a racist.
I know. I know. It's terrible. So
I'm rubbing off on you, Ted.
Finally, last but certainly not least, cannabis use may double your risk of dying from heart disease and increase the risk of stroke by 20%, according to a new global review of data. The number of people who use cannabis and cannabinoids has soared, of course, over the last few years. And while previous studies have linked cannabis to cardiovascular problems, the scale of the risk was never clear until now. This is an important gap in light of major changes in consumption that, according to researchers at the University of Toulouse in France. So to strengthen the evidence base, they searched databases looking for large observational studies. So this is like a study of studies or a meta study published between 2016 and 2023, which looked at cannabis use and cardiovascular outcomes. 24 studies involving 200 million human beings were included in a pooled data analysis of the results, 17 cross-sectional studies, 6 cohort studies, and 1 case control study. Study participants were aged between 19 and 59. In those studies where sex was recorded, I don't mean how much boning they were doing, like whether you're male or female, cannabis users tended to be mostly male and younger than non-users. The analysis revealed heightened risks for cannabis, 29% higher for acute coronary syndrome, that's substantial, 20% for stroke, also substantial, and twice as much risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. The findings are published in the current issue of the journal Heart. I don't know. I mean, so it's funny. I mean, for me, the cliche, I don't use cannabis, full disclosure, but like I sort of assumed if nothing else, it would have sort of a mellowing effect. So this is why I never went to medical school, and that like having a mellowing effect would probably reduce your chance of heart disease, but that's not true.
I just think that's just. I mean, we have so many chemicals in our bodies. I mean, what's another cocktail to just throw in there? I mean, just keep adding on in there. Red dyes, plastics, pot, THC. What could possibly go wrong? Just keep doing it. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I guess I think cannabis got legalized. We in America, we always go from one extreme to the other, right?
Sure.
We threw people in prison for years for buying or selling cannabis. That was stupid.
Well, that was by design. I mean, they did that deliberately to break up families and make women dependent on the government. I mean, that's what that was.
And obviously to feed the prison industrial complex and make a little grift. But the thing is, so now we've gone to the other thing where we've completely legalized it recreationally, but we really didn't prepare for it. I mean, like Robbie, if someone's driving while stoned, there is literally no test that a police officer can administer to determine that, right? So it's impossible to police this. I kind of think people shouldn't drive while stoned. Right. It is illegal, but who cares if there's no way to put some data to that, right? Similarly, there's no way we don't really know what the long-term health effects of cannabis are, positive, neutral, or negative.
Well, we do know it
We're a
contributes
nation
to
of beta
schizophrenia.
testers. Pardon? Yeah.
It does. I mean, one of the reasons that mental illness is going up is because, we are always dumping up our kids with SSRIs and things. Like, oh, little Johnny he's hyper in class. Let's stone him using Ritalin.
Well, I mean, there's definitely there's definitely a place, and I would like to remind people who are not as old as me, there is a place between making something illegal and criminalizing it. There's a thing in between where you just make something illegal, but you don't criminalize it. A great example was during the Cold War. You couldn't get Russian vodka. Even now, you can't legally get Cuban cigars, right? You can't get cohibas. But let's just say you're caught with Cuban cigars. Nothing happens. You just can't get them. They're hard to get. During the Cold War, if someone brought you home a nice bottle of Stolichnaya from Moscow, you could drink it, and right in front of a police officer, nothing would happen to you. So it was just hard to get. Isn't that kind of the answer here? While we figure out what to do about it.
I mean, I would think so, but again, Ted, I'm telling you, I think this stuff is by design, because there's too many profit margins involved. Our healthcare system depends on sick people. Our insurance companies depend on sick people. So why in the hell would you want to make people healthy?
Well, that's true. And there's also my paranoia from the left, Robbie. I think this is about controlling the young. When I was a young punk rocker, we were all anti-drugs because we believed that the government distributed drugs to make young people docile. You ever notice that they're really good at legalizing depressants, but they come down hard on stimulants, right? So it's about preventing kids from being wild in the streets, like the name of the old movie from the 60s. That's what they're trying to control the young. The people who should be and would be starting revolution are sitting at home stoned and doom scrolling through TikTok rather than going out and burning things in the street and overthrowing the government.
Well, it's just like we were just talking about before the show. Like Ted, I like to read. I read a lot. Matter of fact, I'm rereading this for those of you who don't know.
Excellent choice.
Excellent choice. I'm because Ted sent it to me. I read it in PDF, and he sent me a hard copy, so I'm reading that now. Go to tedrawell.com, order it. He's not paying me to say this. Just it's a good book. But no, I'm reading the Great Mortality, and so if you go through just the amount of hopelessness that the people in Europe back in the 1300s felt, I mean, it was reflected in the art. I mean, there was people dancing with the Grim Reaper, funeral pyres burning in the background. You can find the art. We're in the same phase now, but it's in a digital spectrum. So if you go on Instagram or TikTok and just go through just the people just making fun of mushroom clouds, and they're acting like they have no power to stop what's happening. It's because they're depressed, and it's because we're dumbed down. People don't understand the power that we have. And I'm telling you, this is by design. They want people weak. They want people sick. They want people stupid. And they want them to be compliant cattle. And you can't do that if you're like me, where you're just some redneck who's just pissed off that someone's screwing your family over. Like I told Angie Wong yesterday. How has Iran ever hurt me? They never have. The people who hurt me.
And they don't want to.
No, of course not.
And by the way, it is, I just have to say, honestly, visiting was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. I mean, the hospitality was off the charts. I mean, and just to give you an example, something that didn't happen to relate directly to me, but I witnessed firsthand. I was staying in a hotel in Tehran, and I encountered a French couple in the elevator who were very upset because the day before they'd been pickpocketed, and they had lost 1,500 euros in the incident in Tehran. I was surprised that they were pickpocketed because it really always felt like a safe city everywhere where I walked. I didn't go to it's a huge city. I'm sure there are terrible neighborhoods. I didn't go to any of those. But anyway, we got into the lobby. One of the hotel employees said, hey, you should go to the police department and report this because, that they can help you. And the French, of course, with typical disdain, it's rolled their eyes like, yeah, right, they're going to help. What are they going to do, right? I mean, reporting these things to the police in France or the United States doesn't do any good. So anyway, I ran into them a day or two later, and they told me something incredible. They said, well, actually, we did go to the police, and we reported it. And then they went to a safe and they came back with an envelope with 1,500 euros in it. And they said, it is the law that that anyone who's robbed while they're visiting the Islamic Republic should be made whole. And I was like, they didn't ask you for proof of how much money you had? So no, they just believed us. And I was like, wow. I mean, that's incredible.
No, no, Ted, I think that's a big part of the problem. I know we're starting to run out of time, but I think one of the biggest problems that we have as Americans is that we don't travel enough.
Yes.
And so we don't go, we don't see other countries. And this is coming from a conservative. All right. I'm a right winger. I'm not a lefty.
What? I didn't know that.
But I'm serious. Like, these people around the world that Fox News and CNN tell me are my enemies. They're not my enemies. Listen, if Professor Morandi, I know that you watched the show. If you invited me to come to Iran, like right now, I would take you up on it because I want to know more. I want to know what the people's like. What exactly is it that's so bad about your country that my country is telling me that I must support a war to destroy you for? Let me see it. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me how horrible your country is, because someone's lying to me. And I'm going to go on a limb here, but I'm going to assume that the people who lied to me about the Iraq War, the people who lied to me about weapons of mass destruction, the people who lied to me about Syria, war. the Afghanistan war. So I'm willing to bet that's probably the American government's lying to me, and not
probably.
The Iranians.
No, wait, Rob, you don't believe that for the first time ever they're telling the truth and on behalf of a foreign country? We're going to go. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Robbie West. Thank you, Robbie.
Buy the book.
Thank you, Robbie, for the ad and for guest hosting for Manila. We're not around tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow's a national holiday, Juneteenth. So we will be back with Manila on Friday, June 20th.
Speaking of ads, we do have one. Do you want me to go and pop it up and read it?
Yeah, let's have it.
All right, let's do this. 1 second while it populates. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check. The smooth, medium roast and vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon because freedom isn't dipped with plastic. Ties in with this story. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinion. My mother-in-law is visiting today. Love her. And a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice from or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This one's for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble. Wonder if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. There we go.
Thank you, Robbie. That was great. Okay, so we'll see you guys all on Friday. Please like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Really appreciate you.
For sure.
Take care. And we'll be doing a rerun stuff tomorrow. So if you are missing us, there will be some stuff to see. So check that out.
Yeah, I put that together today.
All right. Excellent. All right. Where can I find my outro music? Oh, here we go. Okay. Bye.